Sister Shanyeri Norman, and Baba Kimbizi Merritt. And Baba Hikima, your line is still open as well. So if at any time you would like to add to the conversation, feel free. But again, we're joined by Shanyeri Norman, board member, and Baba Kimbizi Merritt. Take it away, family.
Greetings. How you doing, DJ?
I'm well.
Hey, DJ.
Thank you.
Hey, Shanyeri, how you doing?
I'm doing well. You ready to take this hour on?
Let's roll.
Okay. Well, greetings, family. Again, this is Shanyeri and Baba Kimbizi Merritt for this second hour of ULU's International Thursday Night Call. We will be conducting the member training and orientation. Of course, the purpose for this call, again, is member training and orientation is to educate our members on our or ULU's particular brand of cooperative. Of course, it is also open to others that may have been introduced to ULU but are not yet members. So this is a part of an ongoing training and education, which is a pillar of the cooperative. What we're talking about here, especially those of you who was on the last hour, have been on the call for the last hour, and if you're familiar with ULU in any way, you understand that we're talking about a radical change for our people here. So, of course, education is a must, and having collective dialogue around ULU is a must. So if you haven't already placed this weekly event on your calendar, make sure that you do so that you're always prepared to join us. You do not want to miss these 2 hours with ULU on Thursday night. The member orientation and the call previously, the introduction to ULU, can serve for you as a place where you're able to be educated and you're able to take notes, ask questions, because conversations are going on all over the world in reference to ULU. Groups of people are gathering together and discussing ULU, joining one-on-one, joining in groups or as businesses. So you want to be prepared with taking notes and asking questions and getting a better understanding of ULU and our brand of cooperative. So for the past 7 weeks, we've been going over the ULU 10-point appeal and plan. This 10-point appeal and plan lays out the appeal or why ULU was created in the first place. Then it follows with 10 critical points that outline how we build. And these 10 points are very, very much in our grasp. It's all about exposing ULU and making sure we educate ourselves on ULU so that we're able to grow to the size group that we need to get the job done. So before we go further, let me just say that if you don't have a copy of the 10-point appeal and plan in front of you, one, it's attached to the email that let you know about tonight's call, and two, if you're not on our email list, please go ahead and go to www.usliftingus.com. Again, that's usliftingus.com. And before you're even able to enter into the site, you'll see the ULU 10-point appeal and plan right there for you, and this is the document that I'll be reading from. You're also able to download this document. It is in PDF form. You can print it off and share it with others, and again, have those discussions about ULU with your friends, with your family members, with like-minded people who are eligible to join ULU, which are those of us who are of Black African descent. So again, that's usliftingus.com. So, getting right into it, the document reads, ULU 10-point appeal and plan for the new Black economy. And before I go there, just let me step back just a moment, because many of you may not have been on the call previously, so forgive me. When we talk about ULU, ULU is an acronym for Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative, LLC, which is a global business organization. It's designed to change the way we do business with and among ourselves and with others. Our primary objective is really to put in place successful business models that give us the capacity to gain significant control of the economics of our communities and nations, and also help to free us from our current state of economic domination. So we take the strong position that significant economic advancement is impossible with just the traditional entrepreneurship and business owner model. So this is a radical change that we're talking about, is adding the component of ULU, which is large-scale cooperatively owned businesses. And now we'll get into, again, the 10-point appeal and plan, which goes over the critical need for ULU and also the points or the spine, if you will, how we build ULU, how it is possible. So again, ULU 10-point appeal and plan for the new black economy. Current events and the general unrest of the times call for radical change. The following points provide practical and necessary steps for a new and positive existence for us today and for future generations. Point 1, as black people, we take full responsibility for the economic destiny of our communities and nations. Point 2, black persons and black institutions, especially the black church, join together as members in a large-scale cooperatively owned business enterprise to pool our resources. Point 3, this cooperatively owned business enterprise is reflective of our unique culture and interest in the world. Point 4, the governance and legal form of the cooperative accommodate democratic principles, one member, one vote, with elected leadership. Point 5, only members of the cooperative and not the public, again, only members of the cooperative and not the public have the opportunity to secure ownership units in the business enterprise with the potential to amass billions of dollars for community development. Point 6, the cooperative focuses on opening and operating businesses in local communities that, 1, provide needed goods and services, 2, create new jobs, 3, stimulate additional business activity, and 4, yield a fair profit. Next is point 7. This is the point that we went over last week. The cooperative is driven to duplicate and expand into hundreds and eventually thousands of businesses, all owned and controlled by the collective. Next is point 8, and this is the point that we'll be digging into tonight. It says here, the net profit from overall cooperative success are used to, 1, reinvest, 2, for the distribution of grants and endowments, and 3, for direct return to member owners of the cooperative. Point 9, the large-scale cooperatively owned or group-owned business enterprise functions as a catalyst and central element in building and sustaining the new black economy, one that gives power to our people. Point 10, Usliftingus Economic Development Cooperative, LLC, serves as the aforementioned model. At the bottom, it has a special note. It says, these 10 points form the basis for black economic empowerment. The security and welfare of our people starts with our determination to control the economics of our communities and nations. Black people and black people alone hold the key to the gateway leading to their freedom, from the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, 1923. Also at the bottom of the ULU 10-point appeal and plan, you'll see the term UJMA, cooperative economics. Again, it's always a reminder when you see UJMA, of course, it's always a reminder to let you know that what we're talking about here is family-centered economics. It's not to negate or to knock anybody else. This is about our family particularly. There are other things that you may be involved in outside of Us Lifting Us, your individual business or other endeavors. But here, in this environment, within this organization, we're talking about family-centered economics, group economics. So going back to point 8, which is the point for tonight, and Bobby Kimbesi, I hope you're ready to jump in here. Point 8 again says the net profits from overall cooperative success are used to do 1, reinvest, 2, they're used for the distribution of grants and endowments, and 3, for the direct return to member owners of the cooperative. So as we get started here, I want to talk about 2 very important themes as we shape the discussion tonight. We'll give some points about ULU, some definite takeaways in just a moment, but I want to go ahead and get this discussion started. Bob, there's a general understanding. Point number 1 I want to take care of. There's a general understanding of the word profit. One way I think that's really simple for people to understand the ULU perspective is to dig into that general meaning of profit.
Okay, Shay. What the best way to begin that digging into the profit is to understand another way of talking about profit is to call it what it is, and that is surplus value. Everything, every commodity that we buy has built-in surplus value. In other words, if you go to the store and you buy a shirt or a blouse, and let's just say it's a designer blouse and it sells for $100. The way they arrived at the cost of that blouse, they took the cost of the fabric, of the buttons if it had buttons, of the thread necessary to sew it together and hold it together, and the cost of the labor that went into sewing it together, and the pattern. Also the overhead of the factory or the sewing machine, and they arrived at the cost of what it took to make the blouse. And then they did a markup. Let's just say it cost $10 to make the blouse, and they said, I think we can sell this with this designer name on it. We can sell it for $100. So the $90 over the $10 of the cost is surplus value. That is profit. Mm-hmm. Problem is that the profit or the surplus value is in fact a byproduct of all of the people who worked to produce the blouse. The seamstress, the sewers, the people in the store who helped you to try it on, all of them were necessary to bring that particular product to the market. What happens in the capitalist model is those people are paid a small salary, and the rest of the value that is the $90 in the markup goes to the owners of the business or to the shareholders in the business. And that is how we get to this gross income inequality that is rampant throughout America. Everybody working paycheck to paycheck, minimum wage jobs or barely decent wage jobs, while the people who own the business are increasingly becoming more and more wealthy by the minute. And so when we talk about the net profits of the businesses that ULU will operate, we are talking about a different way of distributing that surplus value. Mm-hmm. Recognizing that it took all of us together working to make the product, we then distribute the wealth of the business back to our community in various forms. One, in terms of putting money back into the business so we can continue to do business. Secondly, funding those institutions in the community that make life worth living, schools and healthcare, things of that nature. And then thirdly, giving back to the individual members of the cooperative in the form of a dividend quarterly or annually.
Okay. So in a nutshell, we're talking about equal distribution of wealth.
Right, or a more equitable distribution of the wealth.
Okay.
Recognizing that what has happened to us is that the surplus value has been stolen, basically, and pocketed by others. And so what we're doing now is, rather than fighting them for that surplus value, we're building our own economy and just distributing the surplus value where it belongs, to the people who created it in the first place.
Okay. Before we go further, family, please excuse me. I forgot to take care of some housekeeping issues. If you have a question or comment, please press 1 on your phone, and that way we can acknowledge you and have you join the conversation, because, again, we are learning and growing together. This call is led by board members of us listening us, but the discussion is with everyone. So please press 1 on your phone, and we'll know that you're wanting to join the conversation. Also, if you have a question and you would like to pose it on our Facebook page, we do have someone who is right now manning that page, so you can also add a question there. Toward the end of the call, I will go over those questions there. So thank you for that, Bobby Kimbezi. And just to bring us back now that I had to divert for a moment, you made things more clear in terms of profit and where ULU stands. So what I'm led to ponder is, how in this scenario in which we're surviving at this point, how are we supposed to ever reach a place of sustainability or the creation of a viable economy with a system that's designed for such imbalance? I think the more we compare and contrast, the more fruit that we're all going to get out of this call. So how is that supposed to happen? It's such an unequal distribution of wealth.
I think your question gets right at the heart of the matter. First of all, we've had, because of the way this system operates, we tend to think of profit as a bad word, or some people view it as in more negative terms. And by calling it surplus value, then it's just a question really then of whose surplus value is it? And when we realize that it is our surplus value, then it's just a question of, well, now how are we going to split this up so that we get the maximum use out of it? And that takes us back to the sayings that we use when we talk about ULU, that it is family-centered economics, or familyhood that creates an economy. In other words, now that we're clear that we're not begging people for something, that this surplus value is, in fact, what we have created by our labor. In other words, all of us working together have generated this wealth, and the wealth is ours for the betterment of our people. So hopefully that puts it in a much more positive light. And when you talk about, therefore, what then becomes sustainable, then it's a question of, well, what do we need to do with this wealth that we have created? And when we start looking around at the needs, the material needs of our people, and we say, well, hey, we need education in a major way, and the institutions that are, quote unquote, supposed to be educating us aren't doing that, or they could do it better if they had more resources, then that's a way to use some of our wealth to guarantee that our children have the opportunities to grow up knowing who they are and having a sense of their own purpose. When we look at health care and the increase of negative health outcomes in our community. Then we have resources now to talk about ways of guaranteeing that we are healthier as a community. So that's what we mean when we say sustainable economic activity. In other words, profit for profit's sake just makes a small group of people extremely wealthy, but drives the masses of people into very negative and destructive patterns of living. And it reaches a point where it begins to feed on itself and is completely self-destructive. So at the time that we, as a global family, are wrestling with the effects of global warming, instead of us using our ingenuity to solve that problem, because the rich want to remain rich, they continue producing the very products that add to global warming, and that's what we mean by it's no longer sustainable. They know it's not sustainable, but rather than relinquish their profits, they continue down that path. We, in charge of our own economic life, will say, hey, that's not going to benefit us, so we're going to change direction. We're going to use our resources in a different way. We're going to be more family-oriented and take care of the family. And in the long run, that will be sustainable.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Before we get into our next point, I do want to, if he's on the call, I would like to invite Baba Yoga Bay, who has contributed greatly to ULU, to our call and to our ULU event. I want to ask if you're here with us and if you have anything that you would like to add to the discussion right now, because I know last week there were some things that you wanted to mention and you didn't quite get the chance to. So we're definitely wanting your input. And just let me know if he's there, and we'll open up that line.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you for following up. And yes, I'm in somewhat of a cul-de-sac. I won't say a dead-end street, but on one hand, I want to listen and get as much information as I can so that I can understand the philosophy and the ideas of ULU. And so that's why I'm just going to try to keep my questions too short and to a point. One of the things I like to share is I saw Hidden Colors number 4, and I think it's just dripping with resources and information. Of course, by being quite long, I think it was almost 3 hours, and so I didn't expect to sit there that long. And of course, there was so much that, have to look at it over and over, pen and pencil and discussion groups and what have you. But to make a long story short, I followed up with that on YouTube, and he said that they are already, as far as documents concerned, they are already number 1, and they have beat out Batman and Superman, Harry Potter, and some of these other movies on Amazon. And he was very pleased at how we as a people, just on a small margin as that, how well we were able to come to the forefront. And of course, I would love to see that same kind of passion and energy around ULU. Because the idea, the product that we have, from my understanding, is we are now going to deal with the real money, and the real money is us, the people. We're the real money. and the other stuff is just a carrot. You know, they can change that stuff and, you know, come up with a credit card and come up with whatever, where the real money is us. And I just want to find out as much about what you're talking about this evening and the evenings to come, so that I can get a good understanding. But I just wanted to put that out there as far as what Tariq Nasheed is doing, and hopefully we can get some collaboration with him.
Okay, great point. I really appreciate that. And for those of us who haven't seen Hidden Colors 4, there you go. You got a pretty good review there. Please do go ahead and view that. I know I'll be viewing it soon myself. It's so interesting that you got on the topic, or you hit on wealth and our true wealth, because that's actually the next point that I'm going into, is that is exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about real wealth building here. So this, of course, is outside. You know, some of the family who are on the line hear the term wealth building and wealth. We hear it a lot of times. I know myself, being in the financial services industry, you hear wealth building just all of the time. But it's always inside of this box, operating inside of this established financial system created by the big banks and government. So, Baba Kimbizi, now, you just really, really spoke about it, Baba Yoga Bay, but I want to give another perspective as well on that question of what is wealth, and describe it, of course, in the context of our discussion tonight for point 8.
Well, actually, Baba Yoga Bay said it. Wealth is the people. It's the people and our labor power and our creative ideas in how we solve problems and meet needs. And we circulate that energy in a family circle. That's really the basis of wealth in any community. And so the problem is that we have put our creative genius and our labor power at the disposal of others, and have worked for others and have enriched them, while at the same time finding ourselves impoverished and pushed to the margins. So that is the need for not only creating businesses, but beyond that, creating an economy that allows us to harness that labor wealth, that labor energy, that labor power, and to have it work so that our children have a future, and that we have the institutions and the resources necessary to allow us to live full and productive lives. So wealth is not money. I mean, money is just an expression or a measurement or a captured moment, a snapshot of it at any moment. The real wealth is the people, and how we interact with each other, and how we share our gifts with each other. That's why the better we understand healthy family, the better we'll understand how do we do economics together.
Okay. So, again, family, with this particular point, the reason we're focusing on these, we're hitting at these particular words or expressions of what it is that we're doing here. The particular point we're going over tonight is point 8, and we're talking about what we're able to distribute once we come together and pool, again, our resources, including our labor, our talents, our genius, our skill set, pooling that, and then distributing it in these 3 ways, 3 major ways: reinvesting in the cooperative, or us lifting us. And, of course, reinvesting happens after which the business operation or business operations have been taken care of. Okay, so we reinvest in the co-op after business operations have been taken care of. 2, We issue grants and endowments to institutions that bring value to our community. And 3, there's a direct profit sharing to each member owner of the cooperative. Clearly, a member owner is the person that has not only applied, paid, and been approved for membership in ULU, but is also invested in the cooperative by purchasing and owning at least one unit of the cooperative, right? So, again, this perspective is, the ULU perspective, I should say, is that we engage in business activity as a family, that we honor and operate from our core, which is our culture. I was really happy to hear in the last hour you all had a very, very good discussion around culture. And I'm just going to bring that over a bit. As we continue to grow this enterprise and we refer to culture, Baba Kimbizi, what do we mean by that? I think it's very relevant because of the widespread use of the word culture. So what are we talking about? What is ULU talking about when we talk culture?
We're talking about a way of life. We're talking about a way of looking at the world and acting in the world. But at the root of what's really being discussed when we say culture, we're talking about values. Mm-hmm. And in the African sense, the values that we are upholding are the values of community, not over the individual, but, as the proverb says, because we are, therefore I am, and because I am, therefore we are. That expresses the dialectical relationship between the community and the individual. You can't look at one isolated from the other. And in European culture, what is paramount is the individual. Everything gets sacrificed for the benefit of the individual. It's okay to step on everybody as long as at the end of the day you're this rugged individual that has risen to the top of the mountain, so to speak. The African worldview says that, as Dr. King said, I can never be all that I'm supposed to be until you are all that you're supposed to be. So there's this idea that it's together that we grow and are healthy and prosper. So this idea of community in African culture is extremely important. There's also the idea of this awareness of God or of something bigger than ourselves. I think Dr. Mbidi in his book African Philosophy and Religion said, he scoured the entire continent of Africa, and one of the things he was very clear about, he says, is that African people are notoriously religious. And no matter what language they spoke, what part of the continent they were in, everywhere he examined African people, there were these rituals and practices that expressed a profound and deep belief in this higher reality. Whereas in European culture, the what they consider ultimate reality, it has to be material. If they can't touch it, see it, feel it, spend it, manipulate it, then it's not real. And that makes for a very distorted kind of way of organizing life amongst the people when everything gets reduced to something material. Like Missouri, the show me state. If I can't see it, it don't real. It's not real. That's not an African worldview. We have a very intimate and understanding and intuition that the most essential things about life are not always visible, are not always something you can touch, but it's real. It's real and you can feel it. And then the third thing that's very important to African communities is this idea of cooperation. Whereas in the European model, it's all about competition. You compete for everything. And not to say that there aren't times when competition has its place, but the overarching value is on cooperation. We are here together. We have to share the resources of the planet. We have to share each other's resources. And in the sharing of things, we all grow and benefit. So those are just three critical values that are part of the African worldview, this idea of community, this idea of a supreme intelligence and guiding energy, and this idea of cooperation, which is very different, opposite, if you will, European notions of materialism and individualism and competition that even goes against life itself. So that's what we're lifting up when we talk about culture, and that's why it always comes back to familyhood or family-centered economics, getting back to this cultural paradigm or cultural fulcrum around which the decision-making and the behavior that we want begins to take place.
That was powerful. So what I'm hearing you saying is that this is our natural way of being. What ULU proposes and how ULU proposes that we do business and grow together as a family and really basically save ourselves, this is our natural way.
Right. Let me just take all of that and put it into a very simple, practical example that might make it clear. A lot of us grew up, and maybe our first job was working at a McDonald's, or something like that. I know I came through the McDonald's organization, and I was amazed because I worked for one of the first black men to own a McDonald's franchise. And matter of fact, he owned 4 in Atlanta. And let's just say that he had $1 million franchise. That as a matter of fact, he had 4 $1 million franchises. So over the course of a year, each of his franchises was grossing $1 million, and his goal was to bring at least 10% to the bottom line for each of those franchises. So that meant for each franchise, he was bringing $100,000 to the bottom line. So you multiply that times 4, that's $400,000. So as the owner of these franchises, he was pocketing about almost $500,000 a year. Meanwhile, in each of those stores, he was employing maybe 50 people. So maybe over the 4 stores, he was employing 200 people who were making minimum wage. So everybody's working and slaving like a bandit, not making $20,000 a year total, and he's coming home with $400,000 a year. You see how we begin to get this gross inequality? Well, let's just suppose, as ULU is proposing, that each of these businesses is a cooperative, so that the 50 people in each store are equal owners in that franchise. So everybody comes out of there each year with more than just a subsistence wage. All of us benefit together. That is the difference that the cooperative model can make, and that's what we mean when we say we value cooperation, we value community, and we have this sense of a supreme intelligence that's guiding the way we make decisions and interact with each other. So rather than all of us, all 200 people, slaving to make one person almost a millionaire, we take that same energy and we make the 200 people to a point where they have a livable wage, and everybody can support their children and their families. Is that painting the picture a little bit better?
Absolutely. And what I want to bring out, what I want to just further that with, the opportunity for financial gain and is really real with Us Lifting Us, because you just mentioned one. I mean, that was a great example. Thank you so much. That's one thing that we eliminate in the ULU model, is that one individual demanding most of the profits, or that owner demanding most of the profits. And then, two, another thing that's really, really huge that's missing in our model is that we're replacing that traditional finance capital model, with all of the fees and the interest that come with loans and dealing with big banks. So with the absence of these two things, which really eat up that profit, there's some background noise with someone. If your phone is unmuted, if we have your line open, please mute your phone. But again, the financial gain, like I said, is real when we talk about this ULU model, because as we pool our resources together, two of the things that naturally rob any people of wealth under the capitalistic model is that one owner or that one group partnership that demands by design the lion's share of the profit. That's one. And then two, we have an absence of the fees and the interest associated with traditional finance capital. So just wanted to bring those 2 points up. Is there anything you want to add to that? Bobby Kimbizi, are you with us?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure if you wanted to make a point about that you did. As a reminder, family, we haven't had a caller on the line to ask a question or to join the discussion, and I'm shocked. I thought for sure we have a couple callers tonight. It's on point 8 where we're talking about this distribution of what it is that we build together, but that's okay. I'm resting assured that you have your pens and your notes out, and you're getting this information so that you can carry ULU forward when you discuss it with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues. As we wind down to close, I want you all also to keep in mind that in this discussion, we want to hear what your takeaway is. We want to hear if there's anything tonight that you learned about ULU that you hadn't known previously. Let us know what that is. Now, also we still have Baba Hakima and Brother DJ Jordan on the line, other board members of Uplifting Us. If you all have any comment, anything you want to add to discussion, of course, jump on in here with us.
Shay, this is Hakima. If there may have been persons who joined the 10 o'clock session kind of late, let's make sure that they know how to raise their hand, so to speak.
Thank you. Of course. Press 1 on your phone, and then we will be able to open your line for you to speak. And also to your point last week, Baba Yoga Bay, once we open your line and you speak, if you have another question, unfortunately at this point you would have to, for us to acknowledge you again, you would have to hang up and come back into the call and ask your question, or 2, you can definitely ask the question at our Facebook page, and we're able to see those questions and address them there. Brother DJ, are you there? Do you have anything that you would like to add to the discussion?
Yes, and again, greetings to the family, and we do have another caller who called in. I think one of the things that the audience may be wrestling with, because this is something that jumps out clear to me, is that we're not always conscious of the level of exploitation that capitalism causes. In other words, we have this notion that it's just business. And so the example that Baba Kimbizi gave of the owner of McDonald's, it hits home on many different levels, because I, too, kind of cut my teeth in the job market through the fast food industry. But, of course, at 16 years old, I was just happy to have a job and be in a position to derive an income. I didn't look at it as exploitative.
And a lot of our people don't look at the capitalist business model or the business of capitalism as an inherent exploitative system. And so my guess is that might be why the call screen is not lit up. People are still processing that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to come to grips with. You know, to know that you've been participating in an economic system that is wholly exploitive of not just physical life but environmental life. So I just wanted to add that, but we do have another caller on hold.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we've got 6093. 6093, your line is open.
Greetings. This is Nanana in Denver, Colorado. I hope you all are doing. How you doing, Sister Nana? I'm doing well. Thank you. Just two comments that I want to make. First of all, I want to comment on the whole concept of capitalism being exploitive. That whole concept in and of itself, I think it's just huge in terms of the in terms of the difficulty involved with understanding how capitalism can be exploitive. And I think that when people first hear that, you know, you go into the shock, anger, denial, that whole process of trying to deal with that, because we have all participated in it, and we have all probably at some point in time prided ourselves on our participation in the whole capitalistic system. So in order to embrace the concept of co-op, part of what I think has to happen in the mind and in the spirit is having to go through that anger and that grieving process to let go and to be able to start over again. So I just want to say that I think that that is just a tremendous piece for us to bite off and chew, is the piece around capitalism being exploitive, when we have heavily participated and prided ourselves on participating in it and passing that on to our youth. And the mention of youth, that brings me to my second comment. With this being the educational piece that ULU offers, I am just wondering, is there any particular effort or initiative made to bring this message of ULU to our youth? I'm thinking particularly in the various colleges and universities. So can anyone speak to that, whether or not this message is there any special effort being made to make sure that our youth learn about ULU and the co-op concept? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Sister Nanana. And I will say, and Brother DJ, you may want to also speak to that, because I know we talked about that today, but that is actually something I wanted to mention as we close out, to make sure that you invite, you know, your children, your young people, college students to the call. And these discussions, these group settings where we're talking about ULU, it is just a perfect place to do it with our youth. so that they also understand, as we're being educated, that they also understand at a much younger age. So this call definitely is for individuals to bring children and young people to this call in particular. But then, like I said, DJ, do you want to also address that at all?
Yeah, I think that, and thank you, Shay, for allowing me an opportunity. I think Sister Nanana's question is critical, and not just in terms of ULU, but in terms of the future of our people, and that if we don't begin to seriously retrain and re-educate our people to see business differently, then we're just going to keep participating in somebody else's system or continue to be a cog on somebody else's wheel. And that's never going to get us in a position of power and control over our collective lives. So it's absolutely imperative that ULU begins to drive that message home with the next generation, with the millennials, so to speak, or who are so connected digitally and have the ability to move a tremendous amount of information in a very short amount of time, very efficiently and effectively. We have to be able to tap into the technology that this next generation possesses and use it to really harness and build global African power. So that's my contribution right now. And of course, Shay, you and I talked earlier about some of the things that we're working on to align ULU to do just that. So thank you.
Okay.
So, Shay, I would like to simply add to that as we open businesses that allow younger people to gain employment experience, that not only do they gain a job experience, but they learn firsthand the difference that a cooperative business model makes in their own lives, in the lives of their family, and in the lives of the community where our businesses will be operating. To Sister Nanana's point, I'm just reminded that when we think about the beginnings of capitalism, it was coming into being as slavery was being ended by Europeans. In other words, the slave masters realized that they had reached a point where the cost of feeding slaves and housing them was cutting into the profits. And not only was it expensive, but it was extremely difficult to maintain because of the anger in those enslaved communities. And so the system that took over after slavery was capitalism. It was the mechanism that allowed them to continue to exploit our labor. Now they no longer had to pay for the clothing and the food and the housing. So that became a cost that the formerly enslaved had to take care of on their own. So to her point about participating in a system of their own exploitation, that's what we have lived through for the last 400 years. And we're just now beginning to be very clear of the very exploitive nature of the system. So that it makes it even more imperative that we open our own businesses, but we open them as cooperatives so that the wealth that they produce is equitably distributed to the people who are making the wealth possible. And that's my comment on that, Shay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And Sister Nana, I just want to say for you and for anyone else who is listening on the call, especially our members, if you have any ideas, any avenues, any opportunities where ULU can be better aligned with colleges and universities, maybe in your area that you're connected to, please let us know because, again, that point is so very important. Also, to the point that you made before that one, I want to pose this question to you or to Baba Kimbizi, anyone, whose line is open, any board member whose line is open. As you all raise a good point on this shock, on this unknowing about our contribution, our position in capitalism. And so as an individual is listening in, hearing Uplifting Us, and it sounds so different, it may be the thing that they dreamed of before, or it may be something that they never thought of. I just want to know, what do you say to the person who says, okay, so I hear you in reference to ULU, I'm on board, I love what it is that we're going to be able to do or that we're able to do together, but now that I understand capitalism in a different way, how do I take this? What do I do? Because this is not an either-or situation. This is a both-and. We're not talking about the cooperative or ULU in a way that tomorrow it means that, okay, I leave my job. I don't want to operate in this in this capitalistic system. I understand it now. What are we saying to that person? And we only have about 9 minutes left, so I just want to get this out very quickly. It's going to be one of our last points.
Well, one thing we're saying is we use where we currently are to build the platform that we need to take us where we want to go. I mean, there are just some very practical realities about, you got to pay your light bill.
That's right.
You got to put food on the table. So we're not going to do anything reckless or foolish. But with the disposable income that we do have, and we make choices about what we do with that, we're looking at a co-op unit costing $1,000. Well, I mean, that's just like the people in Marcus Garvey's day making the decision to buy a share in the Black Star steamship line for $5, which was a big piece of money. And because they made those decisions to purchase stock in that shipping line, the Black Star's shipping line became a reality in a very short period of time. Very similarly, that will happen with ULU. When we make the collective decision that we're going to build this institution, yes, it's going to take my $1,000 and your $1,000 and Sister Nana's $1,000 and Baba Bay's $1,000 to make all of this come together. Do I have $1,000 in hand today? No. But I got 10 that I can put away each week, and over the course of a year, I can easily build $1,000 to take out a co-op share in Uplifting Us. That's what I would encourage us to think very hard and very critically about. And if we really take seriously this opportunity that is right in our hands, I mean, we can build this very quickly, and we have the resources to do it. It's just a question of our will.
Great point. I agree with everything that Baba Kimbizi said. I would simply add that, for the family who may be tired of going through the same things over and over, ULU definitely represents a true and genuine change. And so power has no need to chase individuals. Power just does. And so for those who are looking to come in from the cold, so to speak, we're here. And we're, working to build a new reality for future generations. So thank you, Shay, for the call or for the conversation. Very informative.
This is Nanana speaking again. I don't know if I'm still in queue or in line to make a comment.
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, thank you. The comment that I would like to make is in response to the question or the comment that Sister Shay had made, as far as once again getting back to the young people, the students at the colleges and universities, and how to bring that into fruition or make it a reality that they have knowledge and information concerning ULU. perhaps the best way to make those contacts with them would be through the Black student organizations. Almost every college or university throughout the continental U.S. has some type of a Black student organization, a grassroots organization that the students have formed themselves. And so that might be the starting point, is to be in touch with those groups or organizations. And I would be willing to look into which ones are available or which ones are in existence here and in Colorado, and to make presentations to them, and to make them a part of organizing those presentations to bring ULU to the students, so that they will know and understand about what's being done here.
Hey, Shay.
Sure.
We may have lost Shay. Her phone may have dropped.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Just before we close, I want to share this statement by Julius Nyerere, the first president of Tanzania, writing in Uhuru na Ujamaa. And I've said this before, but I just want to put it out there again because I think it's appropriate to where the conversation has gone tonight. He says, first and most central of all is that under Ujamaa, man and woman is the purpose of all social activity. The service of man and woman, the furtherance of their human development, is in fact the purpose of society itself. There is no other purpose above this. No glorification of nation, no increase in production. Nothing is more central to an Ujamaa society than an acceptance that man and woman is its justification for existence. And that is what an Ujamaa economy enables us to do, further the growth and evolution and forward progress of the men and women in our community.
Mm. Ashe, family, can you hear me now?
Yes.
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 Okay. Well, I thank you all for stepping in. I was just talking and you couldn't hear me. It is that time for us to wrap. I think we've had a healthy discussion, and I'm hopeful that the majority of the people on the call, again, did get something from this discussion. If you have questions that you would like to discuss offline, please go to, or you can email us, at info@usliftingus.com. You can also leave a message for us at 404-592-2780. Again, that's 404-592-2780. And just want to very briefly remind the ULU member owners that this is your co-op, this is your business. Be sure that we intentionally invite people back here next Thursday, and let's have those discussions that we need to pull people into the fold. Also, on June 22nd, ULU will join with Hustle University and Savvy Money Moves here in Atlanta to present a discussion on 21st century economics at Operation Hope. Again, that's here at Atlanta, 21st century economics. And, of course, you can ask for information at our info@usliftingus, the phone number I gave, and also on our Facebook. We have the event posted. So come join us, come out and have this discussion, and be sure to be back here next Thursday. Thank you. Peace.